We're live.
Cool.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the UK edition to Whiskey Wednesday with Uncle Nearest. Hi, Posh Matt.
Hello, Sailor.
How you doing?
Yeah, absolutely fantastically. Sitting here drinking rum and looking forward to having a chat. Unfortunately, it seems that our guest, Mr. Ian Burrell, seems to be on island time. And no, I think he's having technical difficulties. So he's going to try and get involved as soon as he can. And so before that, we'll just, talk smack about rum and how, wait for him to get involved.
So as with what this has been happening all over the place, we're all relying on our internet and our devices, and it's tough. So, but yeah, let's chat about. I've got rum in my glass too, believe it or not. It feels like a special occasion.
This one is. I mean, I'm actually drinking Ian's rum, Equiano.
Oh.
And now if I've said that wrong, he'll scold me. So I will definitely wait for him to explain about it. But I know it's a collection of different rums that he's involved in.
Look who's with us.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Absolutely can.
I'm here.
It's our other Brit. And hey, Emma's here with us too. Hi, Emma.
Hey, Emma.
So, yes, everybody's having technical bugs today. So we're just going to let people have some time to figure them out. And Richie, we're going to just chit-chat about rum a little bit. And so, Posh Matt, tell me a bit, because I can't find it where I am, what you're drinking, unfortunately.
It's a collection of rums that Ian helped sort of bring together and is involved with. Now, I don't know much about the actual history behind the brand and everything like that. I know it was released in the UK not so long ago, actually just a couple of weeks before the actual lockdown, and I was able to get a sample and was able to buy it. When I spoke to him last, it should be...
Look who's here.
Hey.
Look who's joined us.
Hey, fine.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
Hey.
There's too many platforms out there. It's like I was waiting for a link and then I didn't realize there's another link and another email. I think it's like about 8 different platforms I've been on the last 7 days. How are you guys doing?
Really good, really good. We were just
I'm great, buddy.
We were just explaining what we're drinking. But
all right, what are you drinking? Oh,
yes.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Look at these guys. Yeah, I know.
Sailor just asked me when it was released.
It's officially released in January this year. It was supposed to release in the States in May, but because of the lockdown, it looks like it may not happen until a little bit later on in the year, because some of the product is still stuck in the ports in Barbados. So it's stuck in the ports in Barbados. It needs to get down to the distillery to be married together, rested a little bit, and then bottled and then sent out to the States for the next batch. So there is some that's going to be in the States, but for the next batch, some of that is still imported. But fingers crossed, you should have some bottles there by June, July.
Yay! I will stay on the lookout.
Now,
Excellent.
Ian, we usually start our shows by letting the guest explain who they are, but I don't think there's anyone in the spirits industry who doesn't know who you are. So I don't know if it's even necessary this week.
Wait a minute. We have another very special guest with us. It's Fawn Weaver.
I am not going to stay on because they're doing internet work in the basement and it's making a crazy amount of noise. But Sailor sent me, the only link she sent me was one that apparently makes me bust through on you guys.
Come on in.
That's how you roll. Just bust through.
Sailor, can you send me a link that allows me to come through on what the other side?
That's just Facebook or YouTube. There isn't a link for that anymore with this new guy.
All right, so I can come through if I go to our Facebook page.
Yep.
I can come through our Facebook page.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to come off and go into our Facebook page, but I could not miss Ian because he's the bomb. And I'm actually going to have rum in the middle of the day because Ian is here. Thank you, Ian. I love that you have Uncle Nearest, but I'm about to go get some rum just so I can be with you.
Remember the recommendations I made.
Yes, I'll see you when I get back to London.
Oh, cool. Definitely. 100%. 100%.
All right. All right,
Okay.
Sailor, I'm logging off, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Whiskey Wednesday's the best. It's just celebrities just dropping in.
Yeah, you know.
Who knows?
We have Donald from North Carolina that's joined us and says, "Hi guys."
Hey.
Hello,
He's a
Donald.
Tar Heel. Is he a Tar Heel? Hey, Donald, are you a Tar Heel?
Let's see if he
I'll have to
will.
find out. I'll have to find out if he is.
I'll let you know.
So why don't you take us away, Posh Matt? Ian, we have 3 Matts in our company, so
Yes.
we refer to our British Matt as Posh Matt.
Oh, Posh Matt.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. Why don't
Or
you
just
take us
Posh
away,
for
Posh,
short.
and lead us in some questions here.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, like there aren't many people who haven't heard of
technical difficulties.
Ian Burrell.
Oh no. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll take us away. I'll lead us in some questions. So we're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to ask some questions and then have some of the guests ask some questions as well.
Yeah, love that.
And then the second portion, we're going to go into to talking about the rums that we're drinking today. So
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So I made some little questions for you. I have them right here. They are fact or myth.
Oh, wow. That's
I'm going to fire them at you really quick. But I want to. You can go as detailed as you want with the answers here. So question 1, fact or myth? Ian Burrell created his own job. Fact or myth?
That's a fact. That's a fact. Created my own job, created my own title, created everything.
How does that even happen? How do you do that? I want to create my own job. How does that happen?
It was back in way back in the day, something about like 2003, 2004. When I was actually a brand ambassador for a Jamaican rum. But learning about the category of rum felt for me the best way to actually learn to be a better brand ambassador. And while I was learning about the category of rum, I was like, wow, you know what? Maybe I should be like talking about different styles of rums instead of just one rum brand. So I looked for the person who was that go-to person in the world, and there wasn't one. So I said, right, it's going to be me. So I just said, right, I'm going to become the rum ambassador. And then I gave myself a pay rise, became the UK rum ambassador. And then once I started traveling around the world, I became global rum ambassador.
You promoted yourself pretty quickly. You went up the ranks of
yeah, a couple of years. Yeah, went up the ranks a couple of years. Yeah, paid myself and that type of thing. Get up there.
Yeah. So I mean, what are the steps to doing that? Because I know there's so many people out there who think that folks like us have these incredibly just sought after jobs, and you just created your own. So I mean, what are the steps to even doing that?
Well, I mean, the first step I feel you have to be inside the industry just so you can understand some of the mechanics. So being a brand ambassador was immense for me to learn and understand the industry, learn how to deal and speak to fellow bartenders. Because when I was hired as the first rum ambassador in the UK, the company that hired me, it was only for 3 days a week and I was still bartending. They just thought it was a good idea for a bartender to talk to other bartenders instead of like a marketing person going into a bar talking rubbish and be like, get out my bar, you don't know what you're talking about. So it was a bartender talking to another bartender, but about Jamaican rum as such. So I feel that's important to have an understanding of the industry. And also a belief in your brand. You can always hear and see brand ambassadors that don't believe in their brands. They come into you and try and sell you their products, and you're like, get out my bar, because you just don't even believe in the product. You're just coming out of regurgitating marketing rubbish, and you're not even passionate about the actual product. So I feel you have to be passionate about the product, and I am very passionate about rum as a category. Not only the spirit, but also the lifestyle behind it, the culture, where it's made, how it's made, where it was in the past, where it is today, and where it's going in the future. So that, again, made the transition easy. So by me calling myself a global ambassador for rum, it wasn't really saying to everyone else in the world, oh yeah, I am the only person about rum and blah, blah, blah. I was just saying, listen, I travel around the world. I love rum. I'm an ambassador for the category. And then slowly but surely, brands actually started calling me that and actually started recognizing me as the global ambassador for the category that they were in. So that was a privilege to actually see that, to be recognized by some big, massive brands and smaller brands as well. And that also led on to me creating the Rum Fest. So long answer for
Amazing.
you.
I had a funny moment. I don't know if you'll remember this, but I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and
great place. The company that I work with is based down there. American Beverage Marketers.
That was actually the first time I met you, was with my friends from American Beverage Marketers.
They just today. I love lychee. The lychee that's gonna be the bomb, because I love lychee. Just send it to me today. I got it today. I'm gonna make some.
I have to give him a quick text and see if I can get a bottle. So the first time I met you was in Louisville, Kentucky, with American Beverage Marketers, and you did a presentation at the Penn Dennis Club.
Oh,
and, and afterwards, we all went to a bar called Meta. And that was the first time. That was the first time I got to actually hang out and talk to you. And I had the weirdest moment, because I remember saying, "So Ian, who do you work for?" And you said, "Well, I work for Rum. I'm just the rum. I work for myself. I work for Rum." I was like, okay, but who do you work for?
We've all had that conversation with Ian.
That's it.
Okay, but who do you work for? I couldn't fathom how and why.
So I set up a company which looks after the Rum Fest and looks after me. I'm the only employee. Technically, that's who I work for, the Rum Experience.
Beautiful. I love it. You're a genius.
I work with brands, but not for brands. So, I mean, I have been offered, in fact, in the last, say, 10 years, I've been offered 2 really nice, cushy jobs for 2 huge companies that have a few rums in their portfolio. And it would have been easy just to, it would have been easy for me just to be an ambassador for them, to just travel around the world, expense account and that type of stuff, because they were already a big brand. So all I had to do was consolidate that and basically come out with new ideas and basically keep them current. But no, it meant if I did that, I wouldn't be able to work with some of the small new brands that are developing. I just had a conversation yesterday of a brand new rum, a fairly new rum here in the UK, where they're buying rums from via Holland, from Barbados, from Jamaica, from Dominican Republic, are blended in, and they're trying to create their own brand. And because I can work with these guys at grassroots level, makes me feel like wanted, makes me feel like I'm doing something for the rum community. If I was a brand ambassador for one particular brand, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's, in answer to your question, I work for myself. I work with brands, but not for brands.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, an expense account is great, buddy, but hold out for that private jet. When one of them offers you that private jet, then you take the job.
You're not supposed to say that too loud. Hold still on the call.
He needs a yacht,
all right,
not a jet. Very different.
Back to myth. Here we go. Rum must be made in the Caribbean.
Oh, that's a massive myth. If I was biased, I would say hell yeah. I'm not. I can't be biased. No, rum is a global spirit, as in it's made around the world. There used to be talks and stories about rum could only be made in cane-producing countries, but because of economics and unfair trading, a lot of the Caribbean countries are not actually growing sugarcane anymore. So they're buying in their molasses from other territories and other countries. So they're not cane-producing countries anymore. Some of them. And some are getting back into that. But as long as you can buy molasses, good quality molasses from anywhere around the world, you can make rum anywhere. So, of course, if you're growing sugarcane, there is going to be rum or a cane spirit of some sort being made in your territory, in your area. But a lot of countries like the UK now, a lot of rum brands here. In the States, yes, there's a lot of sugarcane growing in certain parts of the States, but most of the molasses or most of the sugar used to make these rums are being brought in across the state lines as such to create those particular brands. So rum can be made anywhere around the world. It's not just the Caribbean. Although the epicenter of the rum world is the Caribbean basin, I will say that.
Exactly. Just like the epicenter of our American whiskey industry is Tennessee and Kentucky.
Tennessee!
There it is. My
Wait a minute, you live in Louisville. You can't go back to
I'm in Louisville, yeah.
You can't see that.
Well, Tennessee's my favorite state.
Oh man. Good thing you're in lockdown. You'll be walking around the room. I saw that Uncle Nearest stream, and you were there giving grief about telling Kentucky's not as good as Tennessee.
Richie also
Tennessee's my
gives away a
favorite
lot of
state, and
whiskey.
Jamaica's my favorite island, buddy. All right, so
Wow.
fact or myth? Here we go. Well, I'll tell you this: my godfather is from Jamaica, and you may know his name. He's a guy called Luther Blissett.
No, from Watford.
Yep.
He's from Watford.
Yep, that's him.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
Just don't tell him that we used to call him Luther Miss It, because he missed a lot of open goals.
Okay, so number 3, fact or myth. You kind of touched on this already. Rum must be made from sugarcane. Fact or myth?
Yes, rum has to be made from a byproduct of sugarcane. The 3 common raw materials will be fresh sugarcane juice, syrup, sugarcane syrup, or molasses, which is what most rum companies will use. You are seeing some brands making their rum from either dehydrated sugarcane juice, which I've heard, sugar as well, just like a granulated sugar as such, or using some sort of like Muscovado or Demerara sugar as such. So there are gray areas whether it is considered rum, because rum is supposed to be made from a byproduct of making sugar. And if you're making it from the sugar, then that's not the byproduct. Some people might say, well, wait a minute, I'm in the bagasse industry, and the byproduct of making bagasse would be making sugar. So, but yeah, gray areas. It has to be made from sugarcane. There's one particular state in America for some reason, Colorado, there's a couple of companies out there over the last few years. They feel they have the license to try to make a rum from sorghum. I'm like, what's that all about? And it's only in Colorado. It's like, yeah, we're going to make our rum from sorghum. And they're advertising it online until they get slapped down by a few rum geeks. And then the PTB then get back to them and say, sorry, you can't call it rum. But the thing they could call it rum is a disrespect to the rum category, because they wouldn't call it bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So just for folks who maybe don't know the ins and outs of production, can you explain how sugarcane becomes a molasses?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I'll use the old school way because it's a lot easier describing that way. The old way, back in the days, like the 14th, 15th, 16th century, of how to get sugar from fresh sugarcane juice. They would use these big pans. Actually, it was called a Jamaica train. We had 4 of them. So you get a big pan and you put your fresh sugarcane juice into the first pan and you heat it up. And as it heats, it starts to cook, as you know, with sugar and sugarcane juice. It starts to cook. It starts to bubble. It starts to solidify. And then you pour that juice or that syrup now, because it's boiling, into the next pan where there's another heater underneath that second pan. In the first pan, what will be left will be crystals. And those crystals are the sugar. So we'd scoop that up and that will be sold for loads of money. Talking about like 16th, 17th century now, loads of money. But the liquid that's left over in the next pan would be molasses, and the leftovers from that crystals you've actually made. Now you can boil that second syrup again, make that crystallize and pour that into another pan. And then there'll be more crystals inside that second pan. And you can continue doing that. After about the 3rd time, you're not going to get much crystals out of the actual of the syrup. And what you're left with is a black, gooey, viscous liquid that we call molasses. And that product there would either have been used for feeding cattle, it would have been thrown on the earth for fertilization, or, especially when rum started getting more popular than actually the making of sugar, would be used primarily to make rum. So in effect, if you had a plantation, a sugarcane plantation, you made money from sugarcane and then you made money from molasses because you turned that into rum. So you're rich. And that's how Great Britain became great.
So how many of those pans or cooks does it take then to make blackstrap? What is the difference there?
Well, we normally say blackstrap, which would be grade C molasses, would be about the third boiling and the 3rd extraction of taking sugar out of there. Back in those days, we're talking about the early 1700s. There wasn't a great. The machines it was used to extract the sugar from the molasses weren't that great. So the molasses that was being used for rum was amazing because it had a really high content of sugar. But as extraction got better, the quality of the molasses got worse because it had less sugar inside there. So what we're seeing today is some companies actually paying sugar producers to actually leave a lot more of the sugar in the molasses, and they'll pay them the difference of what they would have earned from making that sugar, from selling that sugar. So they're getting better quality molasses. So it would have been about the 3rd stage of boiling. We call it grade C or blackstrap molasses.
Awesome. All right, I've got a couple more fact or myths coming up. But
before we do that,
our producer Sailor is letting us know that we have some questions from the viewers
and comments.
So,
We just have
take
some
it away,
comments. So Michael says that Desert Diamond Distillery is the best rum that he ever had.
We can't hear you, Sailor.
Desert Diamond Distillery?
Technical issues.
You mean the Diamond Distillery in Guyana?
That's what he's referring to. He says it's the best rum he's ever had.
All right.
I'm not sure.
I don't know the brand Desert Island Distillery, but yeah, maybe they can give me a little bit more information about where it's from.
Yeah,
I'll ask them. I know the Diamond Distillery in Guyana that makes El Dorado, and they're absolutely amazing. It's like going back in time when you go there, because they have things like 3 wooden stills that are like over 200 years old.
Whoa!
Yeah, they just replace little bits of it, don't they?
Yeah,
every time something rots.
They replace some of it. I mean, the column still that they have, the Enmore, they only use like for about 6 months of the year, and it's very inefficient as such, but it creates a characteristic spirit that they need for part of their DNA and part of their story. But when you look at it, it looks like it's from the 1820s. It looks like a pattern that Enos Coffey did. In fact, it looks exactly the same. It looks like a chest of drawers made of wood, as such. And that's what they use for some of their rums. And then they have 2 wooden pot stills, which are taken from different estates in Guyana, just to bring to one estate to actually make that style of rum there. So it's an amazing place, and they make some amazing rums in Guyana. But El Dorado, I think, is the biggest brand. Yeah.
So it looks like the place that he's referring to is a tiny little place in Arizona.
Oh, right. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. So
this is.
Yeah, it's got a lot of flavor to it.
It is. Yeah, you guys not bad product here.
So speaking of whiskey and rum, so I really predominantly only deal with whiskey in cocktails. I'm one of those people. I'll pull out the gin every now and then, but rum and whiskey are my 2 favorite spirits to put together. Yeah, I love the relationship of their history together. I love the relationship of flavors. And so I'm sipping on some Diplomatico Reserva because I'm in Eastern Washington. It's very difficult to get certain things here.
When you say Eastern Washington, is that Washington State or DC?
Yes, Washington State. So I'm in the mountains.
us in Britain, we see that we don't know unless we go, or we think of Washington. We only think of Washington.
Right.
DC.
Yeah, everybody forgets about this place.
All right, you're up there, Northwest.
But I made a beautiful cocktail yesterday using the Diplomatico Uncle Nearest, and I made a vanilla bean syrups with sea salt and a bit of Carpano Antica. And it is, I have so many cocktails with rum and whiskey together. And Haley, who is our social media manager, is going to she found a recipe with rum and whiskey to make in honor of Derby weekend.
Oh, that's amazing. And the great thing about rum and whiskey, because especially good rums and good whiskeys, they're made in very, very similar ways. Of course, they're using similar barrels. American oak is one of the most favorite types of barrels to use in the Caribbean for rums, not only because they're cheaper than cutting down trees, because we don't have many trees in the Caribbean to cut down. So we let you guys in the States cut those trees down for your barrels. And then once the whiskey's gone, we can then buy them for a nice cheaper price to put our rums in this. There's a lot of similarities in the aging process, in the fermentation, the distillation, and the aging of rums and whiskey. So it makes so much sense that a cocktail, especially a cocktail where the base spirit is king, it makes so much sense that a whiskey and a rum cocktail together, blended together, should be a great drink. I mean, I used to make what's called a whiskey and rum old fashioned, because I just felt that it's one of the best drinks on the planet. Yes, I'm biased with rum, but when it's a good whiskey, then it just adds a little bit of a little touch of difference to a really good rum as a base for an old fashioned. But then you got all those natural flavors to work with, like vanilla. You get from wood, and you got the natural spices as well. You get from rum, you get from bourbon, you get from Tennessee whiskeys. You got those natural sugars as well. So yes, it makes so much sense that you put those together and create a base for a particular drink.
Yeah, especially some of the high ester rums you've got that give you that sort of rancio, almost savoury flavour.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And we get a lot of that from the Jamaican region, the Jamaican styles of rums. They're known for their high esters, their Hugo, those rancio type flavors. And that is, I always like to equate, especially one part of Jamaica, Trelawney, I like to equate that style of rum to Isla whiskey. Mainly because it is unique within that particular region, but it's also a stereotype that we can gravitate towards. If you say to someone, Jamaica rum, the first thing you're thinking is that big, funky, hogo type flavor aroma, although that is only a small percentage of Jamaica rum. And if we think of Scotch whiskey and we think of Islay, we're thinking, yeah, that big peaty, smoky, brine, more TCP style of spirit, but not all Islay whiskies are like that, and definitely not all Scotches or single malts from Scotland are like that. So it's nice to make that comparison, and it's one thing I do tell to people around the world when we're making comparisons with rum and whiskey, compare regions, not the whole category, because rum does not have a global definition of what it is. Neither does whiskey, but Scotch does. Tennessee whiskey does, of course. Bourbon does. Well, straight bourbon does. Canadian whiskey does. Irish whiskey does. Jamaica rum does. Martinique rum does. Cuban rum does. Puerto Rican rum does. Venezuelan rum does. So there are regions within the rum world that have specifications of what, or definitions of what they are. They have geographical indications. They have AOCs, appellations as well to how they're created. But they're just not promoted as much as we see with whiskey. But that's one of my tasks, to get people to understand that rums do have rules depending on which region you're buying the rum from.
And that brings me to our next question from a guest, from Donald. He wants to hear about a rum from Guatemala, Zacapa.
Okay, yeah. What was he like? What would he like to know about Zacapa? Or you just want to hear about it?
He just wants to hear about it.
Okay, well, Zacapa was, I'm actually writing this book. I've been writing for about 12 years now. And Zacapa is very, that's a long time. Zacapa is very, very influential in the way a lot of people see rum today. And I'll tell you the reason why. One of the reasons why is because when Zacapa burst onto the scene in the mid-90s, people started drinking and sipping and were like, oh my God, a rum that is smooth. And they were thinking it was smooth, it was easy drinking. But what they didn't know was the amount of sugar that was added to Zacapa at a particular time. So what they would effectively be drinking was a rum liqueur. But it was a pleasant experience, a pleasant rum experience for most people. As rum aficionados started getting more knowledge about rum and their palates started changing and they wanted more what they'd like to call pure rums with less adulteration or any additions inside them, they started seeking other styles of rums and moved away from Zacapa. But what Zacapa did, it opened up the doors for a lot of people to come into the rum industry as a drinker, because with a positive light, because their perception of rum was, no disrespect, Captain Morgan, or it might be Lambs, or if you're in Australia, it might be Bundy, or if you're in if you're in New Zealand, it might be Karuba. Basically, younger rums, lots of caramel inside, they are harsh, you're going to have as a mixer, you're not going to sip and drink by itself. So Zacapa opened up a lot of doors, but for them, the biggest problem they had, the problem I saw was their marketing, unfortunately, and it was the age claims. Just to say it was a 23-year-old when really it was a blend of rums from 6 to possibly 23. As a rum that you drink, yeah, it works well, especially in cocktails. It's a great base for cocktails. I've created many cocktails with Zacapa as a base, as such. But yeah, I mean, it's, for me personally, it's all about drinking what you like, enjoying what you like, but understand what you're drinking. Yeah, it's important to understand what you're drinking. So if you want to drink a certain style of rum, not a problem, but understand what you're drinking.
On that note, would you say there's a specific style of rum or type of rum or brand of rum that would be more attuned to whiskey drinkers' palates?
Great, and you know what? That is an amazing, and the reason why that's a really great question. I've been very fortunate to be invited to a big whiskey event down in New Zealand every 2 years called Dramfest. It was the last event I did before the big lockdown. So I was there in February, March. I was there with Dave Broom. And Dave Broom spent 1 week longer than me because he was going down the south. And he's still there, I think, today, because I made the cut. I made the cut, the lockdown, and he didn't. So he was quarantined, he stayed in New Zealand. I've been there for a month. So at Dramfest, it was like 3,000 whiskey drinkers around the world. And I was working with Diplomatico. Now, Diplomatico have a range of rums. They have rums that are based on the different types of stills they create, 47% alcohol, 94 proof, unadulterated, so no caramel, no sugar, really good expressions of the different styles of rums they could create. And then you have the most popular brand, which is what you have there, the Reserva Exclusiva, which has been sweetened, and they don't lie about that. They disclose that. Aged sugars, blended, added to that. And I'm thinking these whiskey drinkers are not going to drink Reserva Exclusiva. They're going to go for the number 1 pot still, the number 2, the batch kettle, or number 3, the barbette still. The most popular rum they drank at the show, at the whiskey show, was Diplomatico Reserva Exclusiva. Why? Because it was different from the types of whiskey they were used to drinking.
Yeah.
They didn't want to drink rum because it tasted like whiskey. They wanted to drink rum as an alternative or have a different experience from whiskey. And I was like, wow, I've never really thought about that, because for years I've been thinking, oh, we should be trying to make rum like whiskey. No, make rum like rum, make whiskey like whiskey. So you can have two great experiences. Yes, there are going to be some cross barriers. I've seen some rums using like Islay whiskey casks just to finish. Of course, we're using American oak, but most of the good blenders, some like Richard Seal in Foursquare, he doesn't want the whiskey, the bourbon or the Tennessee whiskey flavor in his rum. What he wants is what the seasoned American oak can bring to his rum fermentation. That's what he wants, and what it does is a different type of flavor profile that you'll get from. Say, I'm sipping on Uncle Nearest, and I don't think this is a rum. I'm not even close to being rum. It's a great spirit. It's a great spirit. And then if I'm drinking something like Equiano, then that is not a whiskey. In fact, it's a blend of rums that has been using cognac cask and whiskey cask. But what it is, it's a rum. So it's a great question you asked, Matt, because for years it was all about trying to get what I like to call the malternatives.
I like that.
Trying to get rums that smell and tasted like whiskey. But no, let's get them into good spirits. I think
I tried some of, a lot of rums are doing some great finishes now. I think I tried a Zinfandel from Foursquare, which was absolutely stunning.
It is. For me, that's one of my favorite. I don't like to tell Richard too much because his head gets really big and small. What's that one?
I think I got 2000. This is one of my favorite rums of all time. And again, don't tell Richard that.
His head gets too big. Gail is one of the best ambassadors in the world.
This is beautiful stuff.
You're right. Zinfandel is absolutely amazing. I remember when I first smelt that. And I remember Richard was actually thinking it'd gone a bit too far. He was going to blend it into something else. So I was like, no, this is beautiful. It's like butterscotch. It's like maple syrup. It's like, for me, if I was going to go to a bourbon drinker and I say, listen, you want to try a rum that you can really say, oh man, this is like a bourbon. Go for Zinfandel. The Foursquare Zinfandel, absolutely incredible rum. 11 years old, beautiful tasting rum. But so in answer to the question, and I do like to play with the whiskey guys. When I do smell and taste a really good whiskey, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of a really good rum.
Bless you.
I haven't sneezed for a long time. Remember you sneeze and people
keep drinking.
If anyone out there doesn't know, Richard Seal is the guy who runs Foursquare Distillery. And if you're ever bored and you need some really long sentences to read, go on his Facebook and he will keep you entertained for hours.
Yeah, I did an
He has the longest Facebook posts I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, I did an interview with him and his wife where we delved into the characters of the people, which is different from actually just finding out about the liquids. It's like finding out about like their favorite hobbies. I did a section which I call "If You Don't Know, Now You Know," where I asked them five questions each. Asked Richard 5, his wife 5, about questions about their brands and also about what they do at home and see if they knew.
We had a freezing event. It was a great shot to freeze on, though.
It is. So yeah, we were talking about this Foursquare Distillery. This is actually one of my favorite rum distilleries in the world. And what I love about what these guys do is that in the rum industry, you can add coloring and flavoring to your finished product. But Richard Seal, who
about themselves.
Oh,
no,
hold on. I think he's coming back. You're back. You're back.
Hey!
Okay.
hey!
What do you mean? It slipped away. I'm sorry.
You were frozen.
I was just talking about how Richard's approach to added coloring and flavoring in his products.
Yeah.
Yeah, very purist.
Richard is very, very against any form of additives to his rums. Mm-hmm. He feels that a rum should be basically, it's all about the wood. It's all about the fermentation. It's all about the distillation. It should be as natural and pure as possible. And traditionally, a lot of rums from 99.9% of the Barbados rums would have been that particular way. I mean, you read about certain rums that may have been adulterated, that may have come from Barbados, but that's a lot of charlatans out there trying to sell their products from back in the days when they were trying to basically cut their rums to make it much more profitable. But Richard believes in pure rums, and that's one of the reasons why he's grown over the last few years in the rum fraternity and also the spirit fraternity. To do quality, its integrity. You know exactly what you're getting with the product. There's nothing added to it. So yeah, that's Richard's style. And that's what he sees as a Barbados style. And one of the testaments to that is the fact that he can produce a rum, 5,500 bottles of a product, and it will sell out within 2-3 months globally.
Followed the same sort of path in your rum, haven't you?
I'm sorry, sir. Say again.
Followed the same sort of path in your rum. It doesn't taste like there's much added to this at all. Like, if anything.
Yeah, well, Richard's going to be involved, and we can't add anything to it.
Right. Okay, I didn't realize he was involved.
Yeah. So Richard's the bottler, the blender and bottler of Equiano. So what we did with Equiano is I wanted, when I was approached to help create a brand, we did some focus groups, and it's like an epiphany. I was like, well, if we're gonna, because they wanted to have a rum from the African continent, and I said, we're gonna have a rum from the African continent. There are some decent rums there, but no great rums coming from there, and the best rums are coming out of Mauritius from the African continent. And I said, well, why are you adverse to using stuff from the Caribbean? And I said, well, we're not. Well, that's why we come to you. You're the expert. I was like, well, let's get a rum from Africa and a rum from the Caribbean. I was like, oh, African Caribbean rum. That's got a ring to it. And I said, well, there's only 2 places I'd go in the world really to get rums to create the type of product I want to create. The first one I would never be able to go to because they're too big, and they wouldn't, even though I work with them sometimes, they wouldn't sell me stock. The next person is the person that won Rum Maker of the Year in the International Wine and Spirits for the previous 3 years. The distillery won Distillery Rum Maker of the Year for the previous 2 years. So good pedigree. So I went to him and said, hey, would you be interested in taking some rum from Mauritius that's been aged in cognac casks for about minimum of 10 years? Would you be interested in taking some of that and blending that with some of your rums in Barbados and creating a new brand? And Richard said, yeah, I'm game. That was it. I was like, wow, that was easy, because everyone else get out there, beat it. So that's how it got together. And I just said, listen, let's just do it. We did it and we created a brand. So yeah, 43%, 86 proof. It's what people say to me is a sipping rum. I'm not really into the whole sipping rum thing. I'm into drinking rums, because just because a rum is a certain age, it doesn't mean it can't be used in a cocktail. And just because a rum is young, it doesn't mean it can't be drunk and sipped. So I believe in drinking rums. And this is a drinking rum. This is a rum you can drink in any occasion with your favorite mix, on the rocks, straight. I'm drinking actually Uncle Nearest here, but I'll go back to Kiana after.
It's really nice and dry, so you can mess around with it with different sugars and stuff like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think no colors, no additives, no sugar. It's as natural as you can get, and 2 different types of wood. The French oak coming out of Mauritius, and then the American oak coming out of Barbados. So it's two cultures blended together, married together. But one of the most important things is the reason why we did that whole journey and that story is because of Equiano itself. Alaudo Equiano was a freedom fighter. He was one of the most important figures in the abolition of slavery globally. He was enslaved in Africa, brought to Barbados, sold in Barbados, went to the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom learned to speak English, and then went back on ships, came back to the Caribbean, and he bought his own freedom by selling rum. He bought his own freedom. Right, selling rum and spices. This is in the 1700s, and by doing that, buying his own freedom, he went back to England as a free man. He then orchestrated. He basically became a political figure where he was fighting for the atrocities of enslavement. And what he did inspired people like Wilberforce and the people in the States to actually for the abolition of slavery. So that's the reason why this rum makes a journey from Africa to the Caribbean and then to the UK, because of Alauda Requiano. And that's just on his part of what he did. I mean, he wrote a book, became a bestseller. It was one of the biggest bestsellers. So he was an entrepreneur back in the 18th century. So we want to inspire people, entrepreneurs around the world, to journey with us with this rum, hoping that they'll like it. But we're also looking to donate profits, 5% of the profits, to various different foundations, groundbreaking foundations in various different countries around the world, developing countries around the world. So it's a project. It's a project, but I just wanted to make sure that liquid had to stand up to all the other spirits that are out there, and bringing new people to the table as well, because that's the most important thing about the rum category. It is developing. There are still people out there that still think rum is just a dark rum or a white rum that you can only mix with Coke. Not that rum and Coke is bad, because I like rum and Coke, but that's how some people think rum is. They don't think you can sip, savor, mix with an ice cube, have your favorite ginger ale or ginger beer or tonic with a twist of orange. They don't feel you can do that, but why not? Why not?
Yeah, 100%. It's delicious stuff. I think somebody just asked a question about, they didn't make it to Foursquare, but they were asking if you've got any favorite plantation rums.
Oh, favorite plantation rums. One of my old favorite plantation rums was a Plantation Venezuelan 1992. It was beautiful tasting. It was really balanced. It was sweetened, but it was really nice and easy to drink at that particular time when I was really, really into what I call dessert rums. I still love my dessert rums as such, because it's about different occasions. There's times when you want to drink one style of rum, another time you want to drink other styles of rums. So that for me was one of the best out there.
That's very specific though, Ian. I don't think you can get that bottle at Tesco.
Yeah, you can't get it at Tesco, unfortunately. In fact, I think it's about 15 years ago, in fact, around then. I remember I found about 4 bottles in Barcelona because they'd been gone. And Plantation actually asked if they can buy one back from me.
Wow.
They ran out. Let me see. Of the recent plantations, I'd probably...
Jerry's did a really nice Peru.
I haven't tried that one yet.
Delicious.
Yeah, I mean, the OFTD is great in cocktails. I use that a lot. I can use that a lot in different bases. Again, and that's what, 150 proof, is it? 150 proof?
Yeah.
Sold
out instantly with the crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pineapple, again, is a great base for various. A pineapple daiquiri, refreshing using that. Nice little dehydrated pineapple slice as the garnish. 2 parts plantation pineapple, 1 part fresh lime juice, half a part of Oscar sugar syrup. Give it a good hard shake, and then grate a little bit of nutmeg on top, and then a dehydrated pineapple.
Man, frozen again.
Oh,
the internet.
Yeah, I thought that was really kind of a really beautiful story Ian was telling about Equiano and the connections between that man's story and his ability to against all the odds in life achieve and become really successful, just like Uncle Nearest Green. I think there's a beautiful connection in the names of our 2 products there. And we got a message from Fawn as well. She said to let you know that when you launch Equiano in the States, come send us an email and we'll look at doing an event together.
Oh, 100%. That's what I'd love. And it's really funny. Here's a cheeky thing. So I was looking at some of the. I've been following Fawn, her development and that type of thing. Probably a bit stalking her a bit in that way, just seeing her development as such.
Not much else to do now.
We're all stalkers now. We're all online stalkers now.
My first experience of Uncle Nearest was Alan from Jerry's. It's a liquor store in London, in Soho, probably one of the meccas for all bartenders, all spirits people.
One of my favorite people.
You met him? Alan is a legend.
I love Alan.
Yeah. So Alan. So I went in the store and I was there with my rums and said, Ian, I know you're the rum ambassador, but I got something you might want to enjoy. I'm like, okay, what is it? It's a bourbon. And I'm like, okay, fine. Notice he said it was a bourbon.
That's because I hadn't got my job yet.
This was pre-Posh Matt.
That's right. So he said, right, Ian, try it. So I looked at it. The first thing I looked at, I saw Tennessee. I was like, Alan, it's not bourbon. It's Tennessee whiskey. This is like the old Jack Daniels, Jim Beam story. But anyway, don't worry about that, Alan. Let me have the taste. And I was like, oh, this actually reminds me of a really good rum. That was it. Once I said it reminded me of a really good rum, I was like, I'm endorsing this. I love this. Then he told me the story, and I was like, double endorsing this. And then very, very fortunate to be invited to the tasting at the Gaucho Club, where I got to meet Matt, got to meet Fawn over, and I can't remember her name, the other lady that was looking after Uncle Nearest in the UK. Nicole. So I got to taste it, and Fawn did a great presentation about the brand, and I learned so much that evening. And of course, I went back and did some research, on the brand, did research on Fawn. But I just said to myself, you know what? I love the story. I love what it stood for and what it stands for. And there's a lot of what we do with Equiano that is echoed in what you guys do with Uncle Nearest. There's a lot of similarities there, as such, and so that's why I feel privileged that like Fawn said, yeah, let's do something together, let's work together, because it's something I would love to do, as such. Yeah. Although, as you know, I'm a rum ambassador. I do drink other 8 spirits, but this is an 8 spirit I will be drinking on a regular basis and endorsing, just the same as I drink Four Square rums, Appleton rums, Mount Gay rums, Equiano rums, Diplomatico rums, any good spirit. If it's a good spirit, I'm going to drink it and enjoy it, because that's what it's about. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Ian, I got to say, you really know how to offend the guy. I was also at the Gaucho for that tasting, by the way. Yeah, I was.
How am I going to notice you?
Should we finish off our fact or myths?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I got a couple more left. Here we go. You ready? We'll make these ones a little bit quicker. All right. So next, 1964, bourbon becomes the native spirit of America. But previous to that, if you go way back in time, fact or myth, rum was the people's favorite distillate of America. Fact or myth?
Fact. Yeah, there was, I can't remember the actual stat, but there was a massive stat where they were drinking per capita gallons of rum coming out of the Caribbean. They even tried to go crazy and started making their own rum in New England.
Yes.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Fact or myth? Most aged rums are aged in American barrels.
Ooh, tough one. I would say if we're looking at the globe, the world in total, then no. If we're talking about the Caribbean, 100% yes. There's a lot of countries out there aging rums that can't get hold of good quality, good American barrels, and he's using other woods. So
there you go. Okay, so I'll check. Fact or myth? Most Caribbean rums.
Oh, 100%.
Yes, there you go. American word coming through. There you go.
You don't give them the right answer, they'll just change the question.
You have to remember, because I work the planet, not just the region.
Okay, one more fact or myth. You are related to the artist Shaggy.
That's fact. How'd you find out?
And second question, fact or myth, you do have a musical career too, and you once appeared on a music video with your clothes off. Fact or myth?
I have to start Googling this. Drinking. Pour another big one.
I'm going to make a cocktail. Uncle Nearest and Equiano welcome me.
Definitely called a painkiller.
Yes, what was the name of the song for the video so we can all Google it?
There is some truth there. While I was bartending, I used to do a lot of things. So while I was bartending, I played professional basketball, and I also did music. I was in the music industry, and I was a professional voiceover artist at the same time, and a TV presenter. I did a lot of stuff. I always bartended because that was for me. It brought you back down to earth. You're making cocktails, making drinks in the bar, as such. And And I was approached by this lady that asked me to come and sing or rap on a song that they were doing in France. And and I did it, had a bit of fun. Had a bit of rum to drink, and all of a sudden, I'm getting faxes. You're probably too young to remember faxes, but I was getting faxes from the guys in France that, the publishing company, they love the song and they want you to do more songs and we want to publish it. I'm like, what the hell? What? First of all, what publishing? And secondly, why? This is crap. This is crap. I used to run the joke. I put the C in rap. So anyway, we did some more songs, and next thing you know, we're getting an advance. They're paying us for the songs, and next thing you know, they're synchronizing it into TV shows, PlayStation games, TV commercials. It was crazy, and then movies. And then all of a sudden, the one particular song, the name of the group was called The Dude, and the one particular song called Rock the Juice, basically got into the Scooby-Doo movie. What? Are you serious? Scooby-Doo is. And it was Kangaroo Jack.
This is a children's movie. He
was like a 12, wasn't it? It was like Freddie Prinze Jr., Michelle Gellar, the guy that was from Scream. He was playing Shaggy. So it was an actual movie, and then Scooby was a cartoon type thing. And the big movie that they did, I think it was like 2003. So yeah, my song was in it twice. So I was brilliant. I was like, every time it gets played today, I make a little bit of money. From that movie. So yeah, so I had a career of doing songs, traveling around the world, rapping or singing, sing-jaying. It was, and the reason why the Shaggy connection is even more poignant because I stole his style. I did Shaggy type of style, rock Jamaican style voice and singing. I got lots of
you were influenced. You were influenced.
I was influenced by his style.
Yeah. No stealing.
Yeah. Influenced by Shaggy and Busta Rhymes. Yeah. He's Orville Burrell. He's his family's his dad was from Kingston, but the other fat part of the family is from Clarendon, which is where my family's from, Clarendon and Kingston. So we're the Burrells, the Burrells of Jamaica.
You are just the celebrity family of the island, huh? You guys. You're all walking around and driving in your limousines all over Jamaica. All right, last one, fact or myth. Ian Burrell's favorite whiskey in the world is Uncle Nearest 1856. Fact or myth?
It's now a fact. Now a fact. Now when they do a rum cast finish, wow, even better.
Oh.
Where did one go?
Yeah, they don't want us to be talking about Balvenie 14 or Glenfiddich 20 or Teelings. They want us to be talking about any of those. Uncle Nearest rum cast finish.
We know where to get the barrels from as well now.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We can combine Equiano and Nearest Green.
Yes. I love it.
Product.
Let's do it.
Yes.
If you guys can get some really good Tennessee whiskey barrels that we can send out to Barbados, I'm sure Richard will swap a couple of good rum seasoned casks.
You heard it here first, people.
And here's the boss's response right there. The boss says, "Ooh, rum cask finish."
Yeah, she's into it. All right. Wow. I didn't know we were going to do so much business today.
I know, right? This is great. Deal's done. International business. Hey, Ian, real quick, I just want to let you know that I think it was 2004 or 5. I can't remember. I was actually living in Europe and London, back and forth, and I was in a bar, and a friend of mine, I can't say who it is because he's now a member of parliament. We had, and he wasn't then. We had been having many drinks, and we had some lovely sangria and we were like, let's go. He said, let's go salsa dancing. We said, oh, okay. I don't know if this place exists anymore. It was in a basement. Yeah. Beautiful little bar. Do you know the place I'm talking? So pretty. So we had a few, and he said, there's this guy that sometimes comes in and talks about rum. He might be there, and he knows everything about rum. It was you, and we sat there, and even though it was like I got you know how when you've been drinking and then you have to pay attention to something, you kind of sober up right away, and I was mesmerized, and I remember leaving going. I was very much into wine at the time, and I left and I said, I want to talk about rum like this guy talks about rum. This is amazing. Because I could tell how passionate you were for it. And I've thought about that often through the years with my passion for whiskey, and many years I just talked about whiskey. I was a whiskey educator. I wasn't with a specific brand. So a very long time ago, but I remember that. Oh, Fawn says, yes, the salsa club in the basement still exists. She was there.
Well, salsa club in the basement. Was it in the West End?
Yes, it was in the West End. Yeah.
It might have been, it might have been Player. I think they had salsa nights in the Player. Remember the Player off Wardour Street?
Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to think.
It wouldn't have been a tequila place. It wouldn't have been
no, it wouldn't have been Pink Chihuahua.
Yeah, it would have been Pink Chihuahua.
No, I would remember Pink Chihuahua. I would remember that name. This was so long ago. I have no idea. It's a specific memory of, certain, I'm sure you've had this experience. You hear people speak or you meet them. And when someone is so passionate and knowledgeable about something, and that really gets translated through, that sticks with you. And I have a few people in my life like this. Freddie Johnson.
Freddie, yeah.
I mean, I used to go, talk about stalking. I would go almost every weekend for, I don't know, weeks straight, and just go on his tour over and over and over. Because it's like, can your magic rub off on me just a little bit? So,
I mean, that's one of the things when
magic in me.
When I'm doing classes about mentoring potential ambassadors for spirit categories, or not for spirit categories, for brands. One of the most important things is exactly what you just said. It's not about what you say and the information you give those people. It's how you make them feel, and that's the most important thing that an ambassador needs to do. It's supposed to make people feel it in such a way. You might not remember anything they've said, because you can go online, you can read a book and find out all the information they're bringing to the table. But what you can't recreate is how they made you feel at that particular time. So if that passion really comes through and you feel that, and it inspires you to do something, whether it's in your industry or another industry, whatever, then that ambassador's done their job as such. So that's one of the most important things. So I'm so happy you said that, because it meant at least I did my job.
Absolutely. All these years later and all those drinks, and I still remember it.
Oh, wow. I don't even remember after one drink, even though I'm on
my and what was that guy's name again, who you were with, Sailor? What was his name again?
Can't remember. Can't remember.
Okay. Just remember the guy.
You might still know him, I'll say that, but Ian. But
I have a few friends that are members of Parliament at the moment, and they like their rum. They like their rum as well.
This gentleman really liked his rum. We were young kids at the time, so.
Yeah, I've done a couple of presentations in every October. We have October in the UK is Black History Month. So I'm always invited to the Labour Party's offices down in Westminster. And one of my friends, she was the shadow minister for women and culture. And the last time we did a presentation, she introduced me, and then all of a sudden Jeremy Corbyn came in, the leader of the opposition. And I'm like, well, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't drink rum, but I've got a bottle of rum in my hands, and I'm going to talk about rum. And he's probably going to try to run away because he doesn't want to be seen with a bottle of rum. But then I remembered from doing research, my research, he lived in Jamaica for about 2 years in the late 1960s, early 1970s. He was a school teacher. So I brought out the rum. I said, so this is one of my favorite rums, the Jamaica rum, 12-year-old from Appleton. And his eyes lit up. He was like, oh, Appleton. I know Appleton. And I gave him the bottle, and he took the bottle. And I said, I know you don't drink. He says, yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm like, so I made sure everyone in the audience knew he wasn't going to be drinking this. But he did acknowledge the Jamaica rum and how it made him feel 30 years ago back in Jamaica at that particular time. That's a great thing about rum. It's that emotional connection to how it made you feel when you either drank it with friends or drank it in a place. And he also gave me one of my favorite lines, because the line for the Labour Party, which is like the Democrats and you guys in the States, was the party for the many and not for the few. And I stole that for my rum, for the rums. They're like, yeah, we make rum for the many, but not for the few.
I like it.
So, but he's now not a leader anymore because he gave it up. Didn't he? Back 2 months ago.
Yeah. Decided it was enough, and
decided it was
enough. Yeah.
That's the beauty of rum and whiskey. It's It's more of an experience than just drinking.
That's it.
Brings why none of us
the feeling you get, it's
community.
the stories behind it.
Yeah,
and that's
you're creating
something
community.
that vodka will never be able to sell.
Never.
Well, it's one of the reasons that we're all waiting for bars to reopen.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. That's true. Although I did get merry or tipsy on Zoom for the first time ever.
Nice.
People drinking rum. At least
we do it every Wednesday, buddy. You should join us. We do it every Wednesday.
I didn't know about this. Now I'm going to join every
on Zoom.
Yeah.
One last question: if there was one, if there was when we come out of lockdown, what would be the first rum bars you go to in London? This is more for me than anybody else because I'd like to go to them.
I can tell you two rum bars. One closer to me, North London, be Lucky Cane.
Yeah, beautiful.
The other rum bar is going to be Trailer Happiness. There are two bars I have to go to. I have to have a drink with Sly in Trailer Happiness and a drink of Georgie in Lucky Cane because this is going to be a tough time. It's going to be a tough time for a lot of bars around the world, let alone just in London. So the more that we can help and keep the tills ticking over, support the business, and trying to get people back to some normality there. I mean, 'cause in reality, we're talking about the coronavirus. It's going to be here for a little while, just the same way as the flu is going to be here, just the same way as the cold is going to be here. It's just how we deal with it, and how we react with it. So if we decide to go back to socializing, of course, we're going to socialize in a slightly different way, but we have to do it in these bars because I can honestly say in the last 3-4 weeks, I've drunk more rum at home than I had in the last 2 years. Because for me, rum and whiskey is most appreciated, or it's better. It tastes better when you're with friends, when you're in a social environment, as such. So, so I want to go back to that. That's what I miss. This is great. I mean, I love this. I could talk for hours. We could talk for hours. But this is cool. But this is the nearest I get to being with you guys there and talking rubbish and having a drink and reminiscing and that type of stuff, which is hard to actually really do online, but it's the nearest we can get to it. But it's no substitute for reality.
No, I'll definitely see you in Lucky Cane. Can't wait to get back there.
Oh yeah, Ian, in the last 2 months, these bottles behind me have never been so scared, buddy. This is the most scared they've ever been in their life. They are quaking on the shelf back there. next time we're over in London, Matt and Ian, you got to take me to these bars, and maybe Sean will come with us too.
I'm going to show you.
I'm coming too. I need to go back to that.
Yeah, Sailor's come along too. We're gonna have a party.
Quaking. This is Quaking. This is the world's oldest rum.
What?
It was bottled in 1780.
Whoa.
It's Quaking because I'm like, maybe I should be looking to sip and drink this.
Wow.
That shouldn't be on the shelf, mate.
That should be in a museum.
Yeah, I know. It's only worth about $30,000, I think. Someone offered me like $30,000. It was underpriced, but rums like that are Quaking now because we're locked down and we might be like, you know what? I wonder what Harewood 1780 tastes like with Coke.
Oh God! Let's wrap this up before there's a deluge of angry people sending in texts.
Oh my God, I love it. So Ian, where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media? What's the best place?
You can follow me on social media on Instagram. Just go to The Rum Ambassador. Nice and easy, The Rum Ambassador. Also on Ian Burrell Facebook page. I've just started doing a Monday night session called the Global Rum Ambassador Show. I did one. The first one was with Richard and Gail Seal. So we have a little bit of fun. It's like this, but we talk and we really not only talk about rum, but we talk about life. We talk about their other hobbies, and I do like a little game show type thing. I have a session I call "If You Don't Know, Now You Know," where we learn about things that they don't know or they should know about their own brands. Monday, so we do that. Instagram. If you're in London, I do a little TV stint every now and again on the Channel 4 called Sunday Brunch. So we're going to be doing some more locktails. Home.
Thank you.
Amazing. There, so I did that last week or week before. Instagram, we can find Instagram's the base, the Rum Ambassador, and then everything will pop up from there.
Awesome.
And maybe we can return the favor to you, buddy, and we can see if we can get Fawn and Posh Matt to guest on your show sometime.
That'd be brilliant. That'd be because I want to get people from other spirit categories and see if I can convert them into rum, or at least let them slap me down to understand why their product is superior than rum.
You don't want me. I'll drink all the rum, mate.
Have fun.
You're an easy sell. You know good spirits. You know good spirits, Matt. So it's cool. You're gonna drink good whiskey. You're gonna drink good rum. You're an easy sell.
Love it.
All right. Is that about time, Sailor?
That's about time.
I think that, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
Guys, you guys been absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Ian. It's
been having a drink with you guys.
You are a treasure to the industry, sir, and we appreciate you spending the time to be with us today. And I can't wait to hang out with you in London. And you know what? I want to come and hang out with you and Shaggy in Jamaica too.
Yeah, even though he's
the whole Burrell family. You're a celebrity over there.
He's mainly in New York now, but he's actually trapped in New York at the moment.
Gosh.
Yeah, he can't get back to Jamaica, so he's trapped in New York and he's in his apartment there. But that's how it is.
Well,
thank you, Ian. And if you can find Equiano, it's a delicious, delicious rum, and I do advise everybody to buy a bottle.
Yeah, definitely. Whiskey Exchange, Masters of the Malt, or just go to the equianorum.com. In fact, you can get discounts as well. Just put Taste Live, you get a 25% discount at the moment. So Taste Live discount code.
Nice. Yeah. That'll be my second bottle.
Taste Live.
Spirits and kin.
They look so good together. They're beautiful.
And we always end the show by asking people to drink honorably. That's one of our hashtags. And I think with both of our spirits together, that is very, very meaningful today. So,
cheers.
Sip and savor.
Here's to Ian. Here's to Equiano. Here's to Uncle Nearest. Cheers, everyone.
Equiano, Uncle Nearest.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.